there's a very big gap, because a child who has not been prepared to take an exam will want to do other things. And I can tell you without fear of contradiction that there are very few school leaders, even as I speak to you now, that are still collecting money from children, promising them to give them an examination that they will not see. And so for us, because we have now, through a multi-agency agreement, through the 3 ministries of ICT, Education and Interior, we have ensured that there shall be no leakage.
Okay.
And rather than encouraging the children to study, you do not destabilize them to tell them there is something else to do. And the reason why I said I was very firm about children doing exams under trees is that I am a father, and at no time will I allow my child to dictate to me which bedroom I'm going to sleep in. So we should get a life and just take care of our own children.
Okay, you're raising very good points, Professor, but I get a feeling you're not quite answering my question. Your approach to the way, and sort of the way in which you've brought reforms around exams might also be contributing to this. Do you feel that you personally, as Professor Magoha, have not instilled fear in the children of this country with some of the statements you have made as yourself, not education sector, yourself, Professor?
You will have to ask His Excellency the President for his wisdom in appointing me, because for me, as Professor George Magoha, if I accept a job to do the way I was trained at Starehe Boys Center, I shall do it to the best of my ability. And what I have done is to ensure that I trust nobody with issues of the examination process. I have also ensured, Wanawahiga, that I am completely truthful to the examination and to my country and to the children. So now, I would like to tell you that the results you are seeing now are the same results which were being seen in 1989, 90, and 91. So we are going back to that time. If the country wants to go back to those good results, there's a price to pay, and that price is being very firm.
Fair enough, Prof. I don't have a chance to speak with the President, so I will have to be content with you for now. So for this particular matter then, where does individual assessment fit in all this? Because it seems that everyone is judged on the platform of exams, and those who don't pass exams are then deemed in society as failures. Where is the place of talents and skills and other alternative pathways?
Wahiga, I want you to listen very carefully. I've been a teacher at the university for 40 years, and I've trained many surgeons. And the concept is exactly the same with a primary school child in standard 1 or standard 8 or a form 4 student. You should be available to teach the child. In fact, the child should be, you don't try, like if you had an accident and you ruptured your spleen, and I want to train somebody to be able to do that when I'm not there, I must make sure that that person is with me when I'm doing the operation, and he should have done so many of them until I'm satisfied that he's ready. So it is not enough to come and talk in the class without cross-checking that the child has understood. I think we are shifting our focus to a different place. I want to tell you, Wanawahiga, that I am not an expert, but through the short experience I've had, usually A's belong to between 1 to 5, maybe to 6% of the students. And you know it if you went to school.
I did go to school.
But a situation where a school gets 96.7%, which means everybody has an A, please give me a life. You know, in order to change that, you have to be very firm and fair. And that's what I've been.
Okay, fair enough, Prof.
And by the way, just to cap it up.
Yes. Go ahead.
I wanted to say that if I was not enabled to do what I am doing, I would not be available to do what I'm doing. You have to empower me to do what I'm doing, and that's what the government has done.
Professor,
you should measure what we have done by the results.
Fair enough.
That's the way I was trained.
There are various proposals on how to deal with the current unrest in the country in the education sector. There's a proposal, should we be now focusing on day schools more than boarding? What is your take on this?
I would want to be very humble in this one. I think, Wahiga, children are like clean slates. Children are like clean slates. Let the teachers, including myself, do our jobs, and the children shall conform. I do not believe that we should go take a very drastic action even though I may be at crossroads, but I feel that we have not reached that stage yet. We have been handling our children with kid gloves, and we have also been corrupt in the process.
Okay, but Professor,
a child will follow what you tell him.
You're not answering my question. I asked those who are proposing that we should abolish the boarding system in this country, focus more on opening more day schools. Do you agree with them?
And you are not listening to me, because I'm telling you that as Professor Magoha,
yes, I
personally think that we have not reached that stage yet. I'm telling you this the second time.
Go ahead.
And that we should be more committed. We should do our work with passion to avoid going in that direction. If we are going to open more day schools, it should be because of the 100% transition, not because children has defeated us. I will not belong to that group that will be defeated by children, because even my own son did not defeat me. It's as simple as that.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for answering that. On the issue of transfer of teachers, and this has been discussed quite in depth. We've seen Kenya National Union of Teachers talking about it, the Teacher Service Commission. As you've traveled the country looking at some of the causes of the unrest in schools, do you think this is a serious factor or just an excuse?
Wahiga, culture destroys the best strategy in the world. And I want to answer by, first of all, asking you a question yourself.
Go ahead.
I was a vice chancellor at the University of Nairobi for 10 years. Do you think I would have had as much impact if I was a vice chancellor at Maseno University? The answer is no. Mm-hmm. So this story of teachers wanting to work in their local areas, in my view, is a non-issue. Because if a teacher is working in his own village, he will start by doing his own things first. Let us call a spade a spade. Mm-hmm. And if you want to argue for the transfers, maybe the teachers who are about who have about 2 years to go to retire, mm-hmm. those ones you can say, okay, let them retire where they are. But every other civil servant in this country works in every part of the country. Why should teachers be different?
On a related, good question, Prof. On a related note, even as you speak about the 100% transition, many have questioned the capacity of our schools to handle larger sort of intake of students. We have schools which have been able to handle a certain number of students so far, but have then been asked to take on a larger number without the necessary facilitation for this. Now, as we await for the national exams in the next 3 months, some of the excuses that might come after that for poor performance is an increase in the number of students that each school has to handle. Have you, what are your thoughts on this challenge?
First of all, the idea of 100% transition is a very good idea, and I want to side with the president on that one. Secondly, on the implementation at a strategic level,
yes,
definitely there will be challenges. But I don't think there is any nation, even among the developed countries, where everything goes on smoothly.
What do you see as some of the challenges?
If there is teamwork,
what do you see as some of the challenges?
The challenges would be because of the physical infrastructure. In fact, that's why you are interviewing me from St. Mary's School, Yala, where I chair the board of management, because we are building a boarding house for 750 students. Mm-hmm. If there is commitment, Wahiga, and teamwork, these challenges can be surmounted. They may not be surmounted in one quick surgical excision, but we move towards surmounting them. For example, here at St. Mary's Yala, we are lacking a classroom, and we are working towards how it is going to be constructed. The other option would be that you leave a large number of students outside school. Then another point I wanted to emphasize to you is that the fact that somebody has not gone to university does not mean somebody has failed. That is a stupid fallacy. I am a surgeon, and in my theater there are another 20 people.
Okay.
And those people are professionals in their own rights.
Okay, and even as you speak, I'll ask you to mind your language because of the breadth of the viewers that are watching this program, but carry on.
Well, that is the way God made me. Now, what do you want me to do?
Well, you know, there are children watching this broadcast, yes, Professor, so I am thinking about the children, but carry on, Prof.
I have fallen in love with the children, Wahiga. That's why I'm still here. And I'm saying, can we be truthful to our children and tell them this is wrong and you cannot do it? And if a class is to start at 8 o'clock. The teacher should be in the class maybe 5 minutes to 8. You don't find the teacher coming in after the children have been making noise for 15 minutes. These are issues which, if you bother to go out yourself, because you are now interviewing me, you will find there are issues that are surmountable. And I think this is the only direction that we should go. By the way, I have not had any other country where children do what they are doing here, like banning schools.
Yes. Okay. Let me ask you this, Prof. And I know I've asked you this in another way, but let me still try and get this from you. In your view, and we've had different opinions from different stakeholders, what is the main cause of the current unrest?
Wahiga, I'm surprised you are asking that again.
I want to get a clarification. Go ahead.
Since we took over the...
Go ahead.
Yeah, since we took over the National Examination Council, the two classes, Form 1 and 2, have been selected in a fair manner. The Forms 3 and 4 are of the old group. So you know the answer. It is because of fear of examinations. Anything else anybody is saying, I personally do not believe. I could be wrong, but I can tell you that I've visited so many primary and secondary schools in this country now that I think the schools that have listened to what we are telling them are very busy doing their work the way they should do it.
Okay, let me get one last point from you, Professor.
So I strongly believe that it is because of the fear of
examinations,
and not because of transfer of teachers.
Once the examinations happen, the next focus will be on the marking of exams. And Prof, you know, last year a lot of revelations came to light about how exams are being marked under the current system. Well, a shorter window for examinations to be marked. Examiners, some of them have complained that they get paid late. The targets are even higher. And for example, we know that there were some anonymous reports in sections of the press last year that examiners were saying they never had a chance to review the work of their markers. Some examination centers had about 1,000 people. I'm trying to imagine how you manage all those. Have you looked at some of the issues that may have occurred during the marking of last year's exams? Do you have any recommendations as well as you oversee this process?
Yes, we're here. We have looked, and you start by asking, why did we bring the centers close to Nairobi where we can be part of the process of marking? We believe in the performance contracting process, where it is only what gets measured that gets done. There are certain things I will not tell you because you have told me there are many people watching me, so I will not tell you certain things on air. But I want to assure you,
but you can tell me a few. Don't hide everything.
We use a conveyor belt system, which is open, which means if you are marking one paper, there are between 6 to 10 different teachers marking that paper. If somebody marks question 1, the other person marks question 2, and so on and so forth, so that the subjectivity is totally removed. And after that, a senior master looks through the script, and then the chief examiner. And then the marks are entered immediately after all that. So there are 3 senior signatures plus the conveyor belt system. Once that mark is entered, it cannot be altered unless certain things are done, and we have only allowed 2 or 3 people to access the database at that time. This is what Kenyans don't want. They don't want credibility.
Is your system...
I am saying that there is a price to pay for credibility.
Is this system foolproof?
It is foolproof because it is under CCTV camera watch, and it is the very best that we can do now.
Are there changes you've made from the way examination marking was done last year? Are there changes you've anticipated you will need to make?
We have improved the security system and scrutiny.
Okay.
And I want to tell you that we are likely to give you the results earlier than last year because we have trained more examiners.
Really?
And we are also we have trained more examiners.
Okay.
And we are also going to increase the number of marking centers.
Okay, okay. Professor, I know I've said last question, but a journalist always has one more. As we look at unrest in the education sector around the country, what is the role of parents in all this, in your opinion?
The parents have a very significant role to play because discipline starts at home. And so the issue of disciplining the child should be teamwork between the parents and guardians and the teachers all together.